What's up, y'all? I don't think anybody's here yet, so give me a moment. I'm going to send things out and let everybody know that we are, in fact, live. Hey, you see the garbage day today? What am I doing? I'm sending posts. Yeah. All right. What is everybody up to? How are you? What have you been up to? I feel like I haven't done one of these in a minute. I've been traveling all over the place doing I was at Google I/O, I was at I was at I/O, I was at Launch Darkly Galaxy. I was like out on vacation for a week there. Like what a summer, and it's only going to get wilder as we go too. What's up? What's up, Bridgewater? What's up? Call me Dr. T. Yeah. 1 second. Let me get a link to this actually shared across the different places. If I can find all the buttons. All the buttons are here and then here. Okay. All right. So then this one gets one of these. And so that one's going live right now. Oh yeah, I do need to add a description. With the caption. Bet this is very interesting for you all to look at. I promise it's going to take me 10 more seconds, and then we're ready to rock here. They changed all of the UIs for things, and I'm not familiar with any of them now, so I have no idea where all the buttons are. We're just hitting buttons, and we're hoping for the best. What's up, Alex Chip? All right, so we're here. Things are happening. Welcome, everyone. I'm super excited to be hanging out with y'all because it's gonna be a good time today. So first and foremost, I have some new stuff to share. I've been working on a lot. So as some of you know, I do a few series. I have Learn with Jason, which has been running since 2018. That's my 90-minute pair programming show. I have what I've been calling For Web Devs One App. I want to rename it. If you've got a good name for For Web Devs One App, let me know, because if I'm going to rename it, I need to rename it now. And I feel like it's just not a very good name. Like, it's very descriptive, and that's about the only thing it has going for it. But that show is where I get a group of people together. We all get the same app challenge and tool or constraint that we have to follow, and we get 4 hours to build it, and then we all demo together. That one is super fun, and I've started doing them in person. So I've got the first episode filmed in person last month. It's in editing now, coming out hopefully pretty soon. Filming the next one of those tomorrow, in fact. So once I get off the stream here, I'm going to tear down the studio and get it set up for another filming of that show. And then I also have a series called Web Lunch. And Web Lunch is where I do kind of what it says on the tin. I meet somebody from the web and we have lunch together. And that one is built around the idea of I feel like some of the most impactful conversations I've had throughout my career happened when I went to an event, or I met somebody for lunch at work, or, ended up through other circumstances being somewhere with somebody after everything died down. and you're at a meal, you're kind of hanging out with them, and you just get past the small talk, you get past the sort of like standard set of conversation, and you start digging into deeper conversations about like, why does any of this stuff matter? How do you make sure that you're making good choices? Why are you doing the things you're doing instead of all the other things that you could be doing? And those conversations have always been so meaningful to me. They've always had such a big lasting impact on my outlook. And a lot of the way that I interact with the world, both in and out of my career, has been pretty heavily shaped by those conversations. And I wanted to create an opportunity for those conversations to be had, so that folks who maybe don't have a chance to, catch up with somebody over a meal and get to those deeper conversations can at least listen in. And that is what I have an episode of today. I was recently in London and I had a chance to film a few of these. So the first one is ready, and I think I'm just gonna premiere it here today. We're just gonna take it live, and maybe we'll just all watch it together. I don't know. Maybe that'll be a little weird, but I don't know. Maybe give me a vote in the chat if you're feeling that. I think it would be fun to do. And I guess that also, I don't know. I mean, maybe you should all watch it on your own so that I get the views. because that's also a pretty critical thing about taking something live, is that people actually watch it. But yeah, I can do a premiere on here as long as you all promise to also watch it. so that people know that it's worth watching and that they also want to watch it. But so the one that I was able to do, I had Maggie Appleton on the show. And Maggie Appleton, if you don't know, is absolutely brilliant. Maggie is one of those people who has sort of done a lot of things in her career. She's, been an illustrator, product designer, a creative technologist, and there's a ton of fun in her career. And she's also just like one of the happiest people I've ever met. Like, just a truly delightful human being. So I wanted to talk to her, and it was very, like, a lot of fun. So why don't we just dive in and do that? I'm gonna go ahead and just put this on here. And how do I do that? I have to go to YouTube. I have to edit this video to make it public. I'm going to do that now. And we're going to see what 9 a.m. on a Tuesday does for taking videos live, because I truly don't know. Now, here's the other thing I'm going to do. I'm going to copy this video link and I'm going to drop it right here in the chat. And I am going to play this on stream, but I will ask, again, YouTube is fickle. It wants people to watch things, and it wants people to watch things all the way through and leave comments and hit the like button and all those kinds of things. So please, if you do enjoy this video, please make sure that you like it, share it, leave a comment, tell people that you enjoy it, actually watch the whole thing all the way through so that they know that you're watching the full thing. And with that, why don't we hop into this and watch it for real? So let's see if I can get it up on my screen. Okay. So let's see. To share this, I'm going to do one of these. I'm going to turn this on. And then here is the video. Let me get this here. And in fact, what I might do is I might even take myself off the screen for this. Let's do that.
What does goal setting look like for you?
I like unstrategically run my career, right? I have no bigger goals that I'm running at, honestly. I know what I'm interested in the next 6 months, and planning beyond that feels ludicrous to me.
Right there, looking out the window, trying to keep the day from losing all my life. Positive, but someday, looking up at Yahweh, dreaming on that light that would touch my head. I was sitting right.
Maggie.
Hey.
It is so good to see you. Thank you so much for taking some time.
Yeah, really happy that you invited me out here.
I feel like we've had precious little time to actually hang out in person.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've been following your work forever. It was funny because we talked about this a little bit before we started, how you sort of develop these parasocial relationships with people where you feel like you know them really well.
Well, you still had to question what was real and how much was it you on stream of me
Right.
watching you on my laptop versus actually interacting with you.
Yeah, and I feel the same way because I've read so much of your writing and I follow so much of your work that I was like, oh yeah, Maggie and I like best friends.
Go
And I was
way
like,
back.
hold on, wait.
I've always done design and code, as in like I implement my own designs. And this mostly came out of a need of being at small companies. When I first started doing this, I sort of started in visual design and illustration and very much more the graphic stuff. But then I got interested in UX and more like classical UI design. So I just got in there and just started implementing my own designs. And from then on, every company I've worked at, I come in and I'm like, listen, I don't know what a handoff is. There's no way I'm ever going to send you a Figma file. Like I will design in Figma to discuss the idea, but then I'm implementing it. Like unless it's something super complex where I need to pair with someone, like I'm implementing those CSS styles because no offense, but you won't do it correctly. Like, you know.
And it's interesting that you say that because I've had a similar sort of path where my experience with code
Mhm.
was because I had designed something and I wanted to make it real.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and you know, I at the time couldn't afford to hire a developer.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, I can figure this out or it
Right.
can never exist.
Yeah.
And so I've always sort of had that same relationship where it's like I'm like kind of a designer, I'm kind of an engineer, I'm kind of a lot of things, but none of them seem to fit properly.
Mhm.
And then I heard somebody just called me a multi-hyphenate the other day, which I
Okay.
thought was really interesting. And it sounds a little less, I don't know, like I like the idea of a polymath, but I don't like calling, like it feels very like,
Yeah.
to call yourself a polymath.
We need new labels to say this boundary of skills, which is something like you do a lot of design work and you can implement the work yourself. That's now a new special role that mostly allows employers and you to sort of find each other. It's more like a finding function more than a definition of who you are. Because I think it's a whole separate thing to talk about what it means to implement your own designs and like design your own things and then build them. I think is a really special skill set, and people who have that skill set and work that way can build things that like people who don't cannot build. It's like you understand the medium deeply and you are able to think in a way that is like opens up way more avenues and makes your design way better. And just it's a special thing in itself, no matter what we call it. It's cool that we're trying to find new labels for this type of work.
You could have called yourself a lot of things in your career, and your skill set is super varied. How have you navigated that in your career? I guess how has it affected your career?
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to think of how to like what direction to take next. And there's a lot to explore there.
Yes.
Like one of them is you're right. Like I've always had a set of skills that are hard to put a strict box around or label on, because I think my skill set is just like, I'm like you, like I just jump around it. It's like I went hard on illustration early in my career and then I switched into kind of UX. I was more interested in that. And then I guess into product design, which is slightly different. And now I'm like, oh, this like design engineering stuff feels more like me. The way I've gotten jobs since then was that I put all my work online and all my reasoning and thinking and writing online, and people came to me. So it's like I haven't had to look for job titles and try to fit into them, because I'm just like, well, I'm a mess. Here's what it is. It's all on the public web for you to read. If this looks like I could help you, come find me. I feel like you've done this well too.
I saw a quote. I think it was either Taylor Desson said this or somebody on Taylor's show said this, but that this idea of kind of building and learning in public is interviewing at scale.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
I thought that was a really interesting way to frame it. You've sort of been exploring all of these different things, and it sort of leads you down these wandering and branching paths. How does the gestalt of this skill set, how does that play into your day-to-day now? So you said you went hard on illustration early.
Yep.
Do you find that you still do that? Or are you using those skills, or are you just kind of like, thank you, I'm done with this, on to the next thing?
Right. We were kind of joking about this earlier. I was saying that I have some disease where like the minute I get some degree of mastery in a thing where I'm like, okay, I can do this well, people are going to pay me for it, like I have a stable job in this, I'm like, well, I'm not interested anymore, like this is boring. So this kind of happened with illustration. Like I defined a style, I got pretty good at it, I had lots of people wanting that style, and I was like, I don't want to go see what UX design is about. I'm like, I'm not saying I'm a great product designer, but I've gotten up to the stage where I'm like, okay, I've worked at a couple companies, I know how to do the basics, and I'm like, it's not as interesting anymore. Like I don't want to keep going down that. And now I'm like, oh, this design engineering thing I've always been into, but what if I actually took that seriously? And I'm engaged with actual engineers. So I see how he works and what he knows. I can actually compare myself to a good benchmark and be like, okay, that's an actual engineer who's like, has put in the time and learned the stuff and done the courses and like really built a lot of complex projects. And I have not done that. So, but that to me is exciting. I want to run at the fun, new open space. I don't want to keep going down the narrow path that I know what it looks like,
Yes.
which is a good and bad way to approach your career. It's like jack of all trades, do you never get mastery in anything? But I couldn't imagine any other way to do it because I will inherently get bored if you tell me to just do the thing I already know how to do forever.
In my career, I've never been able to take like external validation as good enough.
Yeah.
And so once I've hit 80%, I feel like I'm delivering enough and I can see where I'd want to improve, but I can see how long the time horizon is to hitting the levels that I have like the best in the world. And I start looking for my next 0 to 80%. That has made my career better. I'm always just interested in something. I'm interested until I'm not, and then I find another shiny thing over here and I go after that.
Yep.
It's probably cost me in the sense of, I'm not a distinguished engineer somewhere because I focused hard on the thing that I was good at 10 years ago. In your career, I think there have been points where you were sort of pointed to as like the best in the industry at, and so you've kind of hit that point where you were like a household name for this particular niche. How are you defining success for yourself?
I'm not very motivated by money, and I'm not very motivated by like job titles. People I think try to bait me with that sometimes. I just go, unfortunately, I'm just not wired that way. But internal motivation, I'm super, super driven by. I think you might have the same thing where I get very excited when I have an idea and I have a sense in my head of exactly how I want it to be. Maybe not like in detail, it's always a fuzzy thing. Like I think I could make this thing. And then I go, oh, I can see the tangible steps to me making this. And that is motivating. That is like, this is a fun project. I can like take all these steps. I can get to it. I can make the thing that to me is very satisfying and whole. And whether I get paid for that or not is very like secondary, or doesn't make me work harder and doesn't make me want to do the thing more or less.
What does drive you? Like, I do what I do because blank. Like for you, what is that blank?
Oh, that's a good question. A lot of it is the internal motivation thing. Like as much as I can definitely get excited by like, oh, this is an untapped opportunity, or we like noticed a hole in the market that no one else has seen. Like that stuff is obviously inherently like, yeah, let's do something kind of radical and crazy and new, gets me going. But I still love the day-to-day, the like immediate small goals and just like stepping towards those. So it is a lot of like making something that feels and looks good.
Do you find that when you're making these small goals, are they always in service of a bigger goal, or are you picking small goals because the small goals are fun for their own sake? Is it a blend? Like how do you make these choices?
I don't set big goals, like huge goals. I don't. I think some people are like, right, in 5 years, I want to be, I don't know, this job title, or I want to have this much money. Or I don't know what other people pick, or they want to run this company. I've like unstrategically run my career, right? I have no bigger goals that I'm running at, honestly. I have a lot of medium goals that is like, feels ambitious, but I can totally do. Like I can see the steps to get to it.
For me, and in other conversations that I've had, there's a sense of pressure that you should have like a big goal, right? And if you don't have a big goal, then how can you have a plan?
I kind of joked for recently, I had to kind of write down my 3 to 5 year long-term goals for like my manager or something at work. And I kind of put on Twitter, like, does anyone want to write my 3 to 5 year goals for me? Because I certainly don't have them, because I can't fathom what I will be interested in 3 years. Like I know what I'm interested in the next 6 months, and planning beyond that feels ludicrous to me because I don't know what future Maggie like wants or needs or like will be interested in. Like Fog of War, I can't see beyond like 6 months ahead of me, and I'm not going to try because it feels pointless.
If you're not setting a 5-year plan, then what does goal setting look like for you?
I'm a pretty happy person no matter what. I have a pretty like I'm fine disposition most of the time. And like I'm a very, in a way, like low goals, low ambition person. But in a way that like it still adds up to me making lots of stuff in the world and trying to do lots of good and like try to produce stuff, but in a very non-driven way. Like I'm not actually that driven in the end. Like I like making stuff in the moment. I like following my interests. I feel like the only way I could do stuff in the world is just very short term. Like, oh, like wouldn't it be cool if I had this? I think it'll take 2 months to build it. Like that sort of foresight. But anything beyond that feels way too chaotic and unknowable and like not worth my time in a way that it would almost be counterproductive, because then I would get stressed about trying to achieve this big goal that I don't have enough information about, that might not even be the right goal for me.
I kind of love that framing. The idea of not having a goal at all is wild.
Right.
The sense of relief that must be to be able to just do a thing because it's fun to do the thing and not worrying whether it's strategically valuable or something like that.
Yeah.
And I guess it's also like pretty heartening to hear you say that and to see what you have accomplished in your career by what you call not having goals. I would say you have done as much or more than a lot of us would want to in our careers. And so that's almost like there's a lesson in here. Like we can boil this down to an aphorism.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, Buddhism would have a lot to say about it.
Yeah. What you're describing is interesting because you're almost living the embodiment of the journey is the destination, and like the point is getting there, not like being there is almost like whatever.
Yeah.
It's the end. Like who cares about the end?
That's boring. It's terrible. Yeah. You set these big goals that are in one domain from what you can see from your adjacent possible. You're just projecting down one linear path, and instead of the like, oh, maybe here, maybe this, maybe over here.
You're sort of like preemptively barricading doors.
Yeah.
Because if you say like, I have to get to here.
Yeah.
And then you look and you're like, that could be fun. You're like, oh, but it's not in service of my big goal.
Yeah.
And then you lose these opportunities to explore that are honestly, I don't know, if I look back at the things that I've enjoyed the most in my career, it's when I've said, I don't know why I would ever need to know this, but I want to know.
I really want to know.
And it's led to some, like, what we're doing right now is the product of me saying, what if I could make something really cool with video? And I didn't have a plan,
right?
But here we are.
Yeah. It worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
When you think about this, what is a good career?
Okay, do you think you should actually enjoy what you're doing every day? Like you should wake up on Monday and not be stressed out and like, this is terrible. I don't want to have to do this. You actually enjoying the process and like taking joy in the craft and feeling like you can really dig in and be really good at this thing. And I definitely think you should not coast or be mediocre and be like, well, that's fine. I'm getting paid. It's a stable job. I mean, maybe that's for someone with different career ambitions, but I think of it as like, I need to be definitely doing really good craftsmanship at whatever I'm doing. And then I'd say also, jumping around, like when I do some new company, you're exposed to a new field and some new like disciplines. And I just want to at least understand them or explore them. And usually it ends to me shifting what I want to do.
Right.
Letting the world influence you and like letting it take you to different spots.
What I would call your ability to get a job is excellent networking.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Do you think of yourself as a networker?
Yeah, I've never networked, or like anytime there was a networking event, I was not going to it kind of thing. But I definitely believe in meeting people. I like people. I like talking to people. Again, that is a huge advantage in a career. Like if you happen to be very naturally social and you like talking, great, you're going to be able to meet more people. And I've met wonderful people, like friends, and gotten closer to people, but I didn't do it to network.
Right.
And I didn't do it to get a job. But I just like hanging out with people. And so I end up organizing a lot of stuff. And then, everyone meets everyone and you end up being introduced to people. So I do get a lot of job offers by people who know me through my community organizing work, like someone I know, and they just kind of pass it along. And so it does end up being good for your career. There's some belief that your job and your personal life should be very separate. And I think people that try to keep them separate or have some beliefs about how they have to be very distinct things, like maybe do themselves a disservice, like they're trying to separate things that you cannot separate.
I feel like the big takeaway that I'm getting from here is that you, in your career and life, it seems like the enemy of progress would be definition. Embracing the ambiguity of like, doing stuff is just doing stuff. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Right.
It doesn't have to be in service of a big 10-year plan.
Right.
It could just be stuff.
Yeah, very much that. There are no goals, there are no plans. I just do stuff. And like maybe half of it's rubbish and like half of it's actually okay or whatever, and like 5% is really good. And so everyone just sees the really good stuff and they're like, oh wow, you're really like valuable or something. And I'm like, well, I'm just sort of over here chaotically doing things, and like no one notices the stuff that goes flop, you know?
On to the next one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right down to get out in my head and on my heart. I stick around, ride it out to cool me down. You left too many holes to cover them all up.
Let's see, let me look for your name in here.
Yeah, it's a lot of gold, but not for real. If somebody comes and
Okay, so I just realized something, which is that this video is totally going to get a copyright thing from YouTube, because I bought rights to that music, but you buy it like on a per video basis. So fun stuff. This one is going to have to be, I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. So there was I saw some really good commentary throughout the video, and I mean, I don't know. So first question, did you all like it, and did you like it enough to hit that like button? I'm gonna like stop sharing that screen, and then I'll be able to share the other screen. Okay, so yeah, thanks, Vinny. So I have 3 more of these recorded and in editing now, and so they will be dropping. I'm thinking probably every couple of weeks we'll put one out, and then I have the 4 Web Devs 1 app, which again, looking for new names for that, because I don't have a good one for it. Something is wrong with the quality of the stream. How am I looking, friends? Am I looking rough? I'm on Ethernet. I don't know why this thing would be rough. Blurry? Absolutely not. I'll thank you for being the first like. Let me see. Let me just double check that I am in fact using the, I don't need these anymore. Let me check that I'm using the Ethernet back here. I don't know. The Ethernet is plugged in and it's doing its little flashy thingy. Let me see if I can find Thunderbolt connected. Details. I wonder if okay, do you want to try something really dangerous? What if I turn off my Wi-Fi? Then what happens? It's because the network is here. The Wi-Fi is here. I'm going to try it. If the stream drops, I'll come back. Am I still live? Are we still doing it? It says the Ethernet's still rocking. Still here. Is the quality improving now that I'm not on the Wi-Fi? I'm wondering if it was prioritizing Wi-Fi. And still live. Okay, how's the video quality? It dropped out. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that it dropped out for a second, but now that we're back, see, now it's giving me an unstable connection. I don't know about that, dog. It's fine. Whatever. You know what? We're going to live with it, and maybe I will try to restart my router or yell at it or something. It keeps changing. Yeah, you know what's the most upsetting thing is, at my house, because it's a house, I have fiber internet and it's got like 300 gigabits per second up, and I've never had this issue, and it cost me like $80 a month. At my studio, which is a business, I can't get fiber. I have to get business internet, and it's capped at like 50 megabits up or something like that, which theoretically is plenty fast, but you know, whatever. It's just Comcast. Who knows? But yeah, so I'll see if I can troubleshoot the router today after the stream because, it's okay. You don't need to see me in 1080p. Like, it's fine. It's fine. A little blur. That's just my beauty filter. All right, y'all. So yeah, I guess I wanted to use today to talk a little bit about some of the themes in the video. And one of the things that I really like about Maggie's career is this idea of not having goals. Like, I thought that was so cool. And it really kind of like shook me to think about this approach of intentionally not having goals. Because I don't know about y'all, but like I've always had like a plan. And like my plans aren't very good. Like they're not super high fidelity. It's not like, 10 years from now I'll be here and 9 years from now I'll be there, like in this position, 8 years from now in this position. It's never like that. It's always like, I'm going to be a rock star. And then I just do stuff to try to become a rock star. And then that doesn't work out. And then it's like, okay, well, I'm going to build a web agency and do that. Right. And so it's always, there's always like something bigger that I'm doing. I've never done something just for the pure joy of doing it. Right. That's something that's been a lesson that I'm trying to learn. It's been a thing that I've, I do it in small ways. Like when I build a goofy project or something. But when it comes to career, there's that pressure of like, well, okay, well, you better find a way to make money. And if you're going to make money, you better have a path toward like growing that, because otherwise, why are you bothering? Right. So that's a whole thing. But yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like seeing how much Maggie has done without having an explicit goal of like, I'm going to be X or I'm going to be Y is it's like a good wake up call that like the goal isn't actually the point. The point is a dedication toward like steady progression. Because, experience is highly transferable. I think that we tend to focus on, I think we tend to focus on experience as being like, once I've done this job, the experience I have is only applicable to doing this job. But like my friend, Taylor Barnett Torabi, who is the former director of developer experience at PlanetScale, is making the transition into product management now. And if you think about that, that's like, you could say, well, that's a career switch, but it's really not, because if you think about what product management is, it's listening to people, it's understanding what needs to be done, it's rallying the group of people that you're beholden to, it's driving, consensus with the leadership team. It's making sure that there's a plan. It's making sure that everybody knows what they own, what they need to execute on, right? Like that is not very different from being a head of DevRel or a head of developer experience, because ultimately it's kind of the same job, right? If you think about what the tasks are, there's not a lot different. The main difference is that instead of thinking in terms of communities, you're thinking in terms of new users, right? Instead of thinking about open source, you're thinking about people who are arriving on the landing page for the first time and how to make sure they have a good first product experience. So the idea that, you have to know that you want to be a product manager isn't really relevant. Like if Taylor wants to make that switch, all of the skills that were built during her time in DevRel and developer experience, almost all of them transfer directly, right? And in a lot of ways, she'll be able to use everything she's learned. And I think about that from like my band days, where I started out wanted to be a rock star, and as part of running the band, I had to book tours, I had to design posters, I had to coordinate with people in different cities to make sure that they would print the posters and hang them up in their schools or around town. And all of those things were really like, that's sort of, I had to negotiate like door prices and make sure that we got paid. So it was a lot like running an agency. You know, the difference was, instead of selling a website, I was selling a concert. And when I got out of the band and decided I was going to sell web design instead, it was sort of like, I didn't feel like I was learning a lot. I had to learn a lot about like building websites for people who weren't me, but the business side of it wasn't terribly different from how I was running the band. And when I went from being an agency owner to being a full-time individual contributor, most of what I was doing as a website builder was still relevant. I just didn't have to do a lot of the stuff that I did as an agency owner. You know, I didn't have to do accounting anymore. I didn't have to do sales. But then I found that a lot of those skills, my sales skills, my organizational skills, made me pretty good at driving internal buy-in for new technologies. And like, if we wanted to refactor something or adopt a new tool set, I could use all those skills that I had to try to help get other people to understand what the benefit was, understand how it was going to help them in their day-to-days, what it was going to, you know, what the trade-offs were. And all of that felt very familiar to when I would talk to clients about, you know, well, here's the difference between like buying an or using a free off-the-shelf WordPress theme and getting something custom built. Like, it's the same conversation. Here's what here are your trade-offs. Here's what the work you have to do. Here's what's going to be easy. Here's what's going to be hard. And I didn't find that it was different subject matter, but it wasn't necessarily a different job. And that's been true every time I pivot. You know, I'm in video now. Most of what I'm doing in video is the same as what I was doing when I ran my agency or when I was the VP of developer experience at Netlify. It's talking to people. It's trying to understand what they need. It's trying to understand, you know, what their motivations are, what their troubles are, and coming up with a way to connect them to a solution to their problem. That's just about every job in different permutations. And so it's I don't know. I think if I had, like, I never set out to be doing what I'm doing, but everything that I did helped prepare me for this, if that makes sense. And so I guess all the time that I spent worrying about my big plan and all my big goals was, it kind of feels in retrospect like maybe I was just stressing out about stuff that didn't matter. What mattered was that I was continuing to learn and try things. But yeah, so that was a whole thing. Oh yeah, you tend to not set long-term goals. Always been about learning and growing, and fortunate that doing that has led to opportunities for more growth and learning. Yes, I think that is a great way to look at it. Like, it's a continually it's an upward spiral, right? Like, you might wander around. It's not a straight line, but like everything that you learn and everything that you do gives you more information about how to learn and do more. We talked about it in the video, but we ended up cutting it for time. Or we talked about it in the recording and then cut it for time. Was this idea of the adjacent possible. And so there's this concept. It's from a book called How We Got to Now, I think. And let's see. So the adjacent possible is this idea that you can't skip steps in creating new things, because you can't jump from like inventing the wheel to inventing the jet engine, because there's too many challenges in between a wheel and a jet engine. You have to first discover internal combustion engines. You have to discover jet fuel. You have to discover flight. You have to discover all of these different things that kind of build on the concept of a wheel. And so, you know, really, when you have a wheel, you can maybe, I don't know, maybe you get like, at first a wheel was like logs, and you would put the thing on top of the logs and you would roll it forward and you would move the backlog to the front so that you keep things moving. And then there was the axle, right? The axle was this idea of putting something through the center of the wheel so that you could kind of roll it in place. And then you could attach something to the axle so that the wheel didn't move independently of the thing that you were rolling on top of it. So now you had things like carts, wheelbarrows, things like that. Then suddenly you could start doing things like making wagons. You could hook oxen and horses and cows up to the wagons and pull them around. So each of those inventions, sort of, you go through a door and the door is discovering the wheel. And then on the other side of that door, a few more doors appear, right? Things like the axle, things like, I don't know, bigger construction projects. And when you open one of those doors, it opens there's a few more doors on the other side. And so each of those discoveries creates the possibility of a few new things. And that's the adjacent possible. So whatever you've just learned, adjacent to that discovery are a few more things. In order to get to really big things, the goal should be to open as many doors as possible. If you keep learning, if you keep exploring these doors, the adjacent possible for you is enormous. It's sort of the same concept of I've heard people talking about the increasing your luck surface. So I just had this fantastic conversation with Kelsey Hightower. I'm not going to spoil the whole thing, but one of the things he talked about was luck and how you can create luck for yourself by doing things like going to events. Because the more you're in a place, the more you're learning what other people need in the space, the more you sort of become somebody who gets it, who knows, you're part of the group. You are, you're showing yourself to be someone who is in it for the community, not necessarily in it for a quick buck. You are learning more of the context, you're learning the jargon, you're learning the history of things, and all of that gives you more of an ability to actually help people in the community that you're in, because you're just inherently creating more value every time that you immerse yourself in a community further, right? And of course you got to be learning and building at the same time. So by doing that, you manufacture more luck. And I think that the adjacent possible is the same thing. Every time you learn something, you have more opportunities. There's more dots that you can now connect. You can get more creative with your solutions. You can have, a more lateral way of thinking about a problem. And if you have, if you've explored the adjacent possible to where you have a really broad set of skills, you can do sales, you can do accounting, you can do admin, you can do product, you can do engineering, you can do design. Then suddenly when you look at a problem, you're not like holding your hammer of engineering and saying, well, I'm going to figure out how to make this problem into a nail, which is, that's a pretty common issue that we have, is that people say, well, any problem I can write code to solve it. That's not necessarily the truth. A lot of times problems are too squishy for that. They're too human. They're organizational. They're systemic. They're built into the way that communities work, and no amount of code is going to solve that. You got to do some work before the code can exist. But unless you have the broad experience to understand that, you might think, well, yeah, I can code a solution around this. And, sometimes that's okay. But a lot of times it'll leave you frustrated. And I think that's why a lot of companies tend to stall out, because they are a certain type of expert, and they hire the same type of expert because they want to be surrounded by people like them. And then they only have one way to solve problems, which is good at the beginning, because usually founders find a problem that suits their skill set. Like, my skills are uniquely positioned to solve this problem. I should start a company to solve this problem. That is the basis of value. But as you scale, as the company grows, the problem sets expand, because now it's not just like the one problem. It's also, the people who pay for your product have teams. They have billing issues. They have, they need lots of things that make businesses into businesses. And if all you have are people who think about problems in one way, they might not be able to think laterally to solve the other sets of problems that emerge as a business grows. And so the company kind of freezes up. It stalls out, can't seem to get anything done, and eventually it fades away, and somebody else with a broader skill set will come in and solve the next layer of problems. So that's a lot. So I created WordPress themes as well. I did create WordPress themes. That was a lot of my business. And I saw that you asked about this earlier. Let me grab this question. Never used PHP before, looking for a way to make passive income. WordPress themes. I mean, so here's the thing about any of these. Themes in general are fine. If you want to make WordPress themes, there is a business out there for that. I would say the crest of that wave is probably behind us. And also, there's no such thing as passive income, because if you make a WordPress theme and you put it on the internet, then what, right? Like you don't like build it and put it out there and then it's just done. You build it, you put it out there. Now you got to go market it. You got to tell people it exists. You got to convince them that yours is the right one to use over all the other hundreds of WordPress themes that are out there. And then once they buy it, probably the reason they're going to pay you money is because you're going to offer support. So now you got to figure out, how are you going to respond to these support emails? How do you improve the theme over time? You have to make security patches. You got to add new functionality as WordPress advances. You got to test it with each new version. If WordPress does another big shift like they did when they released Gutenberg, you got to be ready to rebuild the theme to support that. So it's far from passive, right? And so I think the more important thing when you're looking at how to make steady levels of income is thinking about things that you don't mind being active. You can make things more passive. And what I mean by that is you can create turnkey solutions, but there's no such thing as like truly passive income. I think the only like truly passive income is if you somehow manage to do something that pays royalties. Like you become like Sting, I think, makes some ridiculous amount of money off of Roxanne every year, and Mariah Carey makes an app. Well, actually, you know what? This is a good point. Mariah Carey makes a ridiculous amount of money off of All I Want for Christmas Is You every year, right? Like in the millions of dollars in royalties for that. And to make sure that that song stays at the top of everybody's Christmas playlist, she also heavily markets it starting at like Halloween every year to get people to remember that that song is there and try to get them to talk about it and make sure that it shows up on the playlist. So even with something as passive as royalties, there's still something to be said about continuing to market it if you really want it to continue to make money. So the business side of it notwithstanding, PHP is a great language. WordPress is very strong in the marketplace and will probably continue to be for a long time. So if you want something that is more or less stable and that has a large user base, WordPress is a good place to go. I have no idea what the WordPress theme marketplace looks like right now. And I was never really the person who bought themes in the first place. So it may be worth doing a little research on what the marketplaces look like right now and whether or not anybody is buying them. Maybe talk to a few of the popular WordPress theme authors and see if you can get them to share rough figures or some ballpark numbers about like, or how many hours are you spending supporting this? And does it make you a full-time living, or is this a thing you have to do on the side because it doesn't make you enough to pay all your bills? That is, I think, a very, very important thing. Yeah, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. It's attributed to Seneca, but I looked into this because I was going to use it in a post somewhere, and it's disputed because apparently Seneca never said it. So they have no idea where that saying actually came from. It's one of those like emergent like aphorisms that we have in our culture. Let's see. Working in Spain for 9 years. The vine, like the wine vineyards. Hard work every single day. Salary was a joke for the amount of work. I do know that European salaries are a lot lower. Jobs. I mean, fintech is definitely not a bad place to go if you're trying to maximize income. Love Maggie's insights into putting all our writing and thinking out in public. I do this well. Thank you very much. I really appreciate. Might be time I implement this. Okay, so here's the thing. This I said this in the video, and I'm pretty sure it was Taylor Desson who said it to me. Is this idea that putting your work in public is interviewing at scale, and even if you're not looking for a new job, I think the act of writing something down once you've learned it helps stick it in your brain. So even if it's purely selfish, taking the time to explain to yourself on paper what you did is inherently valuable. If you then take that explanation and share it with other people, it becomes more valuable. If you share it with people in a way that they can then apply and improve their own jobs, it's even more valuable. And every single layer of value that you add is something that you can point to when you're looking for your next job, your next opportunity. If you want to shift between careers, like if you're an engineer now and you think you want to get into dev education, you can point at your blog and say, look, I've kind of been doing this anyways, right? Like I'm not really asking you to let me make a shift. I'm asking you to let me do this thing that I was doing already and just make it my job. I think if you look at my body of work, it looks like I am prolific. I've just been here for a really long time is the truth. And if you look at the post frequency that I have, I probably write a blog post every couple of months on average. And it's usually when I'm in the middle of working on something and I get stuck and I have to Google it and there's not a clear answer. So I write down what I did because it was something that I didn't want to have to Google again later. And that post then lives on forever and people can find it when they hit that issue. Like I think I wrote a few, and this is like also one of the things that I've noticed is if you ever Google an error and there's not like a really clear, obvious first answer for it, write that post because it will send you traffic forever because people will Google those errors. And if it's on something that you work on, like if you're a React dev and you hit a React error and when you Google it, the only thing you can find is like the minified React error page that's like, this is what this error means. Your stuff's broken. And then you're like, cool, how do I fix it? And you can't find a good answer. Write that post. Like write that post about how you solved that problem. And several things happen. One, when you write that post, the people who build React will read it and they'll tell you whether or not you have the best solution, which is just selfishly very useful. Sometimes the thing that you write helps feed back into the docs. It helps feed back into the product itself. And now you're actually helping shape the framework for the better for everybody. And a lot of times it just becomes a really good way of establishing your expertise, which again is interviewing at scale. Everybody who sees it thinks of you as a React expert. And now it's one less thing you have to prove when you get into an interview cycle. Yeah, there's a reason WordPress has the yearly base themes is a really good point. Like a lot of stuff changes and they add new features, they deprecate old features, a lot of stuff shifts around inside the language and all of that leads to just maintenance, right? And maintenance is fine. Like I also think, so this is maybe worth talking about. There is I would say there's a personality archetype spectrum for the types of work that bring you joy, and figuring out where you fit on that spectrum is really useful for trying to decide like what you should try to do if you want to make money on the like as a side hustle, right? Because the spectrum would be like, let's see. I've talked about this before, so let me try to add some context. So Simon Wardley is a public speaker. He writes about business. He does a lot about like predicting the future as a business runner. But one of the things that he talks about that it was, I think, just kind of like a throwaway post for him that kind of changed my life is this post that he did about pioneers, town settlers, and city planners. And these are the three archetypes that he's got. Now, I think it's a little more nuanced than like three clear-cut archetypes, but to me, it's the spectrum. Pioneers are the people who thrive on chaos. No definition. Nobody's been there before. It's full exploration. It's 0 to 1. And it's the sort of folks who, if you got put into a situation where your boss said, we've got a problem, we have no idea how to fix it, bring us a solution, you are stoked about that, right? And not everybody is, because I know that sometimes being like poorly defined constraints, poorly defined outcomes, poorly defined anything, right? Like here's a problem. We feel pain. We don't know how to solve it. We don't know exactly what the right solution is. We're not 100% sure if this is the right thing for us to pursue. We just want to explore. What emotion does that make you feel, right? Are you like, hell yeah, that would be a dream job? Or are you thinking that's like my worst nightmare is a boss that doesn't have any idea what they want? In the middle are town settlers. So like a pioneer would be the person who works in the office of the CTO or the R&D office, or is the startup founder in an incubator, right? Where you're just sort of hacking on something and seeing what you can come up with and trying to prove that an idea is viable, is possible. The town settler would be the person who isn't necessarily into the 0 to 1, but really likes the idea of taking something that is theoretically proven but isn't real yet. So we built the prototype, we ran some testing, lots of problems still, but it shows early promise. The town settler would be the person who wants to take that prototype and like turn it into a real product. You go through the whatever happens immediately after greenfielding, where it's not real yet, it's just proven enough to know that it's worth working on. So, somebody who in the Pioneer set will hand you this thing and say, hey, here's what we built. It mostly works. You don't need to keep this code, but you can if you want. Turn this into a product. And then the town settler is the person who is really excited by that, who wants to take an idea that has potential and turn it into a product that has customers. And then there's the city planners. And what city planners would be are the people who want to take a working product and just refine it and make it perfect. They are performance optimization. They are doing the maintenance. They're making sure it's running on the latest versions of things. They're closing up security holes. They're fixing the memory leaks. They're making sure that this is the best piece of software that exists on the internet, right? And each of those roles makes each of us feel a different way. When I think about the pioneer role, I'm excited. That's fun for me. That's the kind of job that I want. When I think about the city planner role, I don't want it. I get bored. I have a really hard time working on the same thing for long periods of time because I don't like incremental gains like that. I want more chaos. I want more excitement in the work that I do. But a lot of my coworkers, when I would bring them in for my chaos projects, would be visibly uncomfortable with the work, and they didn't want it. They didn't want to do it. So each of us, I think, if we can sort of look into the types of work that makes us happy and the type of work that makes us, like when have we felt good at work and what were the conditions of that? And when have we felt bad at work and what were the conditions of that? And the same with our side projects and so on. If we have good answers to those questions and we can sort of identify the types of work, maybe which archetype am I, that starts to help us inform what jobs we should even apply for. Like, I know for myself, I should never apply to be an SRE because it's a city planner job, and it is not that is not the type of work that I thrive in. I should apply for, I don't know, like R&D roles. If I don't know, there was a company that was trying to move into a new market and they wanted to just see how many products they could build and test them really quickly, I would love that. Best job ever. So, each of us can sort of make decisions about what the right fit for us is. Yeah, I'm having some internet issues today. I don't know why. I'm running Ethernet and it's just chugging. So once the stream is over, I'm gonna like break everything down and restart the router and all those things. But I don't want to stop the stream to try it. I think I'm just kind of dealing with the lower quality. Hey, what's up, Lewis? How you doing? It's good to see you. If you are wrong, someone on the internet will correct you. There's this joke that I've started to embrace as true, which is that if there's not a good answer for something, if you Google around, the best way to get that answer is to have an opinion about it. If I'm trying to figure something out and I can't, I have in the past said, does anybody know how to blank? And there's not really any answers. If instead I say, nobody knows how to blank, here's what I did, millions of answers. And I actually think it's not as malicious as it sounds. I think that it is easier to critique than create. And you can take that as a cynical thing of saying well, everybody's a critic. But I actually think it's more that it is very difficult to conjure something. It's like super high effort to create something from zero. If I give you something to critique, I've created the context and I've given everybody a starting point that they can then work from. And so the offering of like a sacrificial idea so that everybody has a starting point to start their critique is a really good way to start a conversation, especially in unexplored space. Because if you're saying, all right, everybody, what are your ideas? And there's no baseline, it's really hard to be the first one to go. So if you can, and if you can express it as a very clear, like, I'm not saying this is what we're doing, this is my first idea, let's rip it apart. That can, to say, I don't know what the solution is, this is all pretty new territory, but let me do a hypothetical and then you tell me why I'm wrong. And then you kind of launch into the first idea or a proposed solution. That can be a really good way, because everybody goes, well, I don't think that'll work because of X, Y, Z. What if we did this instead? Suddenly you're having a conversation. You're actually building something. There's some nuance to that about, like, not, you don't want to like lead the conversation too far, because you basically, once you create an idea, you've set the spin of where you're going. I don't know how far down this rabbit hole we want to go, because now it's fine. If you want to talk more about that, let me know. But can you just be the guy that turns the bolts really well? I think that's the city planner job, right? That's like, you've got something that is really, it's built, it's proven, and now everybody who works on it is there to just make sure that it runs really well. And I think that you know, that is, like, it's challenging work, but it's challenging in different ways. It's not like excitement. Your to-do list doesn't change that often, because the product itself is pretty stable. Like, the people who work on like S3 or you know, any of the AWS services that are really well established, they're not like being approached with like brand new, like, well, actually, you know, maybe I'm making some assumptions, but my assumption would be that they have a pretty set list of things they have to worry about. They have to worry about networks. They have to worry about, you know, scaling. They have to make sure that they are load balancing appropriately, and, you know, those sets of problems evolve over time, and new technology gets created to change the way that you handle networking, you know, edge networks, et cetera. But as each of these things comes out, you're not like generating a new product. You are making sure that the existing product is working in the best possible way, given the new constraints of like whatever modern engineering looks like. But yeah, so what's up, Jack? Yeah, and that's exactly what it is, right? Is, I think the each of us has the things that we thrive on, and it kind of depends, right? Because, like, I know I've worked with people who thought they liked the pioneer role until they realized that they never got to see their work through, because they would get to a proof of concept and then they had to hand it off to somebody, and that handoff made them feel like they were kind of abandoning a project and not seeing the finished product. And they realized that they were actually more on the town settler side, because they didn't mind being involved in the beginning, but what they really wanted to see was like when it got its first user, and they wanted to get it built enough that somebody could like sign up and get that first customer, and they could see the feedback come in initially that was like, hey, I just signed up, this product is great. And so and that's why I think it's a spectrum too, because I think you can sort of be on the 50-yard line of like of pioneer and town settler, or in between a town settler and a city planner, where you don't necessarily want to do like the hardcore optimization of like something that is really, really well running. But it is kind of fun to like take something pretty good and make it better. I think there's a lot of ways to find a lot of fun in these roles, and it just kind of comes down to what gives you gas at the end of the day. Like, if you try something and you get done with it, you go, man, that was dope. Steer into it a little bit, explore. The city planner, pioneer, town settler analogy is from Simon Wardley. Let me see if I can find his actual blog post. Pioneer. Where's his actual blog post? This is, like I said, I think his post might have been kind of a throwaway, because it's like it's an interesting piece. And also Simon Wardley is one of those people who I think knows so many things that like you have to read like a lot of his work to understand a lot of it. So this is a good one to scan. Because I definitely do not. I don't follow all of his work because there's a lot of like nuance, and he does these cool things with what's it? They're called. It's mapping, but he has a specific name for it. I don't know. Anyways, his work is good. You should like go to his site, check it out, and see what you can figure out. What's up, VDog? Yes, yeah. Go hit the Discord. The Discord is great. A lot of good people in there, and also I'm there. You know, this is one of the things that I think is like self-referential work is hard as an outsider, and I think my take on it is that for someone like Simon Wardley, I wonder if he is writing more for himself than he is for other people. And that sort of goes back to that idea of like when you're solving a problem, if you have to explain it to yourself, it sticks better in your brain. Maggie Appleton, who we were watching earlier, has this concept of like gardening. And I don't think it's her concept originally, but it is something that she's very into is this idea of like a digital garden where she writes almost free form, and a lot of her posts get marked as like, I think she has named like sprouts and seedlings or something like that, depending on the level of like fully formedness she feels they are. And so a lot of times she'll post something that's like 3 sentences only for her, and she just marks it as like a seed, right? And the goal for that is more the act of like capturing something. And then if it resonates with people, she will then expand on it, and it becomes a full-blown post where she's thinking about how somebody else would read it and making sure to provide the context and all those things. But there's value in both forms. And I think the trick is like what she does that I love is she has a clear delineation of like how fully formed is this thought. And so you can see like, well, maybe I don't want to read that one because it's a seed. And that's probably like a note she took for herself. Whereas it's not always easy with other folks, because I don't think a lot of people who blog are necessarily that intentional about it, where they're thinking about it as like this, you know, who's the audience for this blog post. I think sometimes you think I'm going to capture this. And if you're not being deliberate about who your audience is, it can be a challenge, you know? Yeah. Joel Hooks has the digital garden as well. And, yeah, it's just, I think like the thing that's interesting about it is if you start to think about your body of work as a cloud or a graph, the concepts are all linked to each other. And there's this concept that I read about, it might have been in the same book where the Adjacent Possible happened, or it might have been another one, but the concept is a commonplace book. And this was back in like around the time Charles Darwin was alive. I think it might have even predated him, but there was this concept of a commonplace book. And it was like, it was one of those weird like status symbol things, like, you know, like the way that people right now are putting like flair on their Crocs. So rich people or people who were well-to-do enough to have space for it would get a commonplace book, and they would set it in a public spot in their house, and they would just write down musings and sort of like create this undirected knowledge graph of things that they were learning or interested in or reading or whatever. And over time, the people who were good at this would start to build out concepts and themes, And this is also what happened with like Charles Darwin and the theory of evolution. It wasn't like a eureka moment where he like looked at a bird and was like, my God, they evolved. It was over the course of years and years of reading other people's work, doing the exploration he was doing, looking at different birds, you know, the wildlife and plants that he was looking at. He'd kind of make an observation, and then he would go back and he'd relate it to older work that he'd read and seen and created, and start like drawing these themes out. And over time, the idea emerged as sort of like the gestalt of all these independent thoughts that he'd been capturing. And commonplace books were sort of the same thing. It was like it's like somewhere between a diary and an encyclopedia where people would sort of capture what was going on in their heads and try to turn that into coherent thought. These days, the way that I've heard that talked about is the idea of a digital garden, or tools like Obsidian, or I think Roam Research, where it's these graph-based note-taking apps where you create nodes, and then you use the nodes to relate thoughts to each other by, if you've ever used it, you like put a double square bracket around a word to mark it as like a node. And then you can take notes inside the node, and you can also relate other documents to the node by doing the double square brackets. And over time, you start to get this knowledge graph where you can see what you talk about and all that kind of stuff. It can detect, in the modern stuff, can detect an unreferenced mention. Like if you said the word that is your node, but you didn't like double bracket it, then you can still get you can see that it's connected and all those sorts of things. But the idea is you're trying to track not just what I have top of mind today, but where my thoughts have been going as I've been reading and learning and trying things. And by capturing this stuff, you start to develop, you know, the provenance of ideas, because very, very few ideas are born out of nothing. They're almost always related to a bunch of other ideas that you've had before, other experiences, other things you've read. It is entirely possible that this is a book by Cal Newport. Let me check. Let's see. I think was it in How We Got to Now? I can't remember which book it was. It might have been in a Cal Newport book. One of the books that I was thinking is How We Got to Now. I need to make an actual, like, what's the right thing to share? I'm going to share an Amazon link, and I'm just sorry. Here you go. So How We Got to Now is written by Steven Johnson, and it talks, that's where the Adjacent Possible comes from. It's a really good book. The commonplacing oh wait, is it this one? Darwin. Oh yeah. Okay, it was a different Steven Johnson book. It's called Where Good Ideas Come From. Okay, so clearly I like Steven Johnson stuff. This is an absolutely terrible link. Anyways, it's all in the Discord. Every link that I share in the stream ends up in the Discord in a channel called Show Links. So if you do want to check those out and not have to copy paste them off, or like try to copy them off the screen here, you can head over to the Discord, which has a much easier link. Let me share that. There's the Discord link. That'll take you into the Discord. Look for the Show Links channel, and anything that I'm sharing will get dropped in there. And then, yeah, so Cal Newport also, we should do a little shout out to Cal Newport's books, because they are all very good. We'll just drop right to the writing page of Cal Newport's site. You can go find that one. What's up, Dev? Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte. That would definitely track. I think that makes sense. I'd love to start writing blogs, but I never know how or where to start. Literally anything. Like whatever you solve today at work is a good blog post. Whatever you're thinking about right now, the last conversation you had over dinner where you got animated is a good blog post. If we're talking right now and you just had an idea that you want to, you would share if we were sitting together, write it down. Like everything. Like everything is a good blog post. And I don't think I'm being hyperbolic when I say that. Like if you have a thought, it's worth capturing because it'll help you articulate that thought. And even if the audience is you, as you're trying to work through articulating something that you are thinking about, that's a worthwhile activity. And putting it in public just let somebody else who is in the same place find it and have that same thought. I've written dozens of blog posts that get no SEO traffic. I don't even know if I shared them. They're just on my website because I was working through a thought or like having an internal struggle about, my relationship to labels or how I decide whether or not I'm happy with a certain type of work. And sometimes if it comes up contextually, I can share it, but like it's not like a thing that I'm doing to build my audience. It's a thing I'm doing because it's what I was struggling with at the time. And I wanted to work through it by sort of making the arguments and making sure that I believed what I believed because there was something there and not just because I'd heard it once when I was a kid and never examined the thought. But all that is very, blogs are like journals that are sometimes useful to others is a very good take, I think. This is a good one. Any tips for someone who keeps overthinking how to set up their personal brand? I find it hard to figure out which part of my identity to lean into. Should I keep it fun or professional or only front end focused or back end too? I think that each person's unique value is much more in who they are as opposed to what they know. And I think if you write about what you are interested in and do it in a way that feels comfortable to you, that is the right way to do it. And the thing about a personal brand is that it is intensely personal. You as a, well, I mean, I should just admit, like, I still struggle with personal brand because I don't know what it means, right? Like I think that what's really hard is that a brand is this sort of thing that fits a very product description. It's a like if you think about somebody who is I don't know, like Bill Nye, right? Now Bill Nye is the science guy. He does experiments, he's kid friendly, he's generally very positive, and there's a pretty clear brand around Bill Nye. But that also means that it's sort of jarring when Bill Nye appears out of that persona. And it can be jarring in a funny way. Like he did that video where he like dropped an F-bomb and it went completely viral because everybody was like, oh my God, Bill Nye knows how to swear. But then at the same time, I think it sort of paints it. A personal brand can paint you into the box. So if you were to say, build your brand around like, I mean, when I was younger, I did this. I'm Jason. I'm the PHP guy. I then had to like back out of that and rebrand when I wasn't writing PHP anymore. So I think that these days, my focus, for example, is, what I want to do is learn things because it's fun to learn, do it with friends because everything is more fun when you have people around, and try to make this whole landscape feel less fear-driven and try to show that the joy of exploration and the pleasure of learning something actually makes it easier to level up and get more jobs. So, do it for fun because doing it for fun is actually an advantage, right? Now that's a pretty poor brand. You can't put that into a tagline. And it doesn't even say what I teach, right? Because sometimes I'm talking about web dev, sometimes I'm talking about business, sometimes I'm literally showing people how to make smash burgers. I don't know. Like, I don't know what it is that I do. I just know what I want people to feel when they're around me. And that's, that's on and off screen. So as much as that can be a personal brand, that's my personal brand, but I don't really think about how I would put that into a pitch. It's more how do I want to feel, and then can I project that feeling outside of myself? So I don't know if that's helpful, but that's sort of where I live on this stuff. Oh, what's up, Salma? Tell me tell me the video. Saw people talking about Cal and writing stuff, immediately got interested. Redoing your personal site. Just want to write things you want to write about without editing it. I think that's a really good way to look at it. Like, if you're thinking of blogging as performance, it has this extra layer of burden that is really challenging, I think. Whereas if you think about it as like sharing because it's worth capturing a moment, maybe it's kind of like the difference between like a candid photo, like a Polaroid. You capture a moment in time. You don't really get to compose it. It's not going to look that great because like you don't get to control the settings of a Polaroid. It is what it is. And if you're in a room that's a little too dark, it's going to look like everybody is just, like eyeballs and that's it. And if you're in a room that's too bright, everybody looks like a ghost. And that's okay because that's how Polaroids work. You're just capturing a moment and you're moving on. Versus like using a super high-end camera where you're going to go grab your lights and your reflectors to make sure that you compose the image perfectly. You get a much better photo, but you take far fewer of them. And they're not necessarily memories anymore, they're compositions. And so I think that there is something really valuable to be said about treating your blog sort of like a series of Polaroids. It's a moment in time. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be polished. It can just be a thing you thought. And maybe later, if it hits, you're going to come back and you're going to revisit that and turn it into a composition. But it doesn't have to start that way. No, it probably shouldn't start that way. Like, that would be something that I wish I could learn. Let me get to let's see. I'm glad that helped. 20 hours later. Thank you for asking. That was a very good question. Yeah. Oh, Node 14. All right. Yeah, once you have a ton of stuff written, you can always change hats and go into editor mode. Exactly, right? And I think you're right that like writing versus editing are very different vibes. I think there's, the trick with any project that's like going through to production is that you get to start with this sort of joyful expansion. You can talk about anything. There are no rules. Everything is within bounds. And then when you start thinking about how to turn it into a product or a composition or a final piece, you have to edit and you have to remove things. You have to, that's where they talk about killing your darlings and the difficulty of editing is because creation is this sort of like unbounded joyful act, and editing is an actively destructive act. And it's stressful to have to, what if you took the wrong thing out? What if you don't include this context and people don't get it? What if you leave too much in and people aren't interested in? Editing is hard because you're thinking about how other people would interpret something. Creation is fun because you're just letting your brain go. Let's see. How many people here even know what a Polaroid is? I hope you all know. Does anybody here give me a W in the chat if you know what a Polaroid is, an F in the chat if you don't. Hoping we see a new blog article 20 hours later. Hell yeah. Look at that. Look at that. We all know what Polaroids are. Okay, let me find this. I have to figure out how to actually open this video. Because I can't copy paste out of my dang thing. Here it is. Let me grab this link. And then we're going out here. And I'm going to share this link through my chat so that it ends up in the show links channel on Discord. But this is a video. Let's see, I'll just share my whole screen again. And we're going to go to this view here. Yeah. And so this is the video that Salma was sharing. It's how developers create personal brands through online presence. Who gave this talk? Let me skip ahead a little bit. I'm going to mute it so that I don't get any like takedowns. Oh, Stephanie. Yeah, this is a very, very good talk. Stephanie is very smart, and I haven't seen this talk in particular, but I've seen her speak on similar topics, and it's dope. Cool. Yeah. All right. So what's up, y'all? Where's everybody at right now? What are y'all working on? What are y'all excited about? What's something that's giving you a little bit of joy right now? I like that you can kind of see my hand over here. Like, you don't exactly know what I'm doing, but you know I'm doing something. I'm on my trackpad because I love my trackpad. You know what I did? I bought this mouse, the MX Master 3 S, MX Master 3S. Is that what it is? MX Master 3. But when I turn it on, when you hover up to the top of, or you bring your mouse up to the top of the Mac bar and like the finder or the toolbar drops down. When I turn on this mouse, that doesn't work anymore. I have no idea why. And so now I don't know what to do. So I'll figure it out eventually. But apparently you're a game dev now. Yeah, you're doing the Panther World stuff right now. And that's super fun. Adding type safety to routes. Oh, interesting. You don't have to do. I thought the routes were type safe in Remix already, or was that like a React Router 7 thing? Or am I crossing up React Router with TanStack Router? One of them's type safe by default. I don't know. Oh, congratulations, Jack. That is awesome. I was just talking about this yesterday. I was hanging out with Joel Hooks, and I was feeling very guilty about not making progress on my Astro course, and we were talking about how much progress Jack was making on his Pro Next.js course. And you can do a typo loader. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Always show the menu. Yeah, like I can definitely solve it in a few different ways, but I don't know. It was weird. I also meet one of those things where like maybe I just need to restart the computer. Who knows? Focusing on your day job, itching back to get into side projects. What kind of side projects you got in mind? Don't have any issues. So that makes me wonder if maybe I just need to like restart the computer. Working on a TypeScript workshop. All right, Shande. I'm very excited to see your TypeScript workshop. Making routes type safe without requiring annotations is kind of dope. That is very dope. What's up, Metal X? How you doing? Yeah. I mean, you're feeling the pressure and actually producing. I'm feeling the pressure and like just it's pressure and guilt because I have this plan for the Astro course that is like it's like written out. It's thorough. I know exactly what I need to do, and then every time I sit down to work on it, I'm like, but there's this like my editor's waiting on me to review this thing. I got to reply to this potential customer and see if I can get him to like pull the trigger on this thing. And I'm always, every time I sit down to do it, I'm like, I should focus on this more urgent thing. It's very hard. It's very hard. Oh, nice. Egghead. That's very cool. Heck yeah, y'all. I'm excited. This is a good list of projects coming out through the sidebar here. Yeah. So I have an episode of for Web Devs One app, which I'm still shopping for new names for that one because it's just not it's descriptive and that's all it's got going for it. And I am thinking about how, like, so tomorrow we're filming, right? And so the way that it works is actually everybody's coming today, and we're going to cook at my house, or I'm going to cook at my house. I'll feed everybody. I'm going to fire up the barbecue. And then tomorrow we show up at the studio at like 9, and we'll plan, code for 4 hours. There's like breaks and lunch and stuff in there. And then we do demos at the end of the day. And so today's going to be a fun day. And by fun, I mean terrible, because I have to go get all the ingredients for things. I also have to make sure that I get the right like snacks and restock the beverages in the fridge and all the things for the day tomorrow, so that people have little munchies while they're here. I already made the dinner reservation, so I'm proud of myself for that. We're going to a really good restaurant. I'm not gonna spoil it for everybody yet, but then I also need to clean my house. We tried to do it yesterday and we just didn't have enough time, and so I have to do it today before everybody shows up. And then I also have to like plan the rest of the menu. So I'm gonna do a skirt steak, or if I can't find skirt steak because a lot of butchers don't have it, I'm gonna do a bavette. And I'm gonna marinate that in like onion and olive oil, more or less, like a really, really, really simple. I guess it's a marinade. That is going to be we're going to do beef, and then I'm also going to do just a whole side of salmon. You just get it's huge. They're like this big. It weighs like 2.5 pounds. And I'm going to cook that over my charcoal grill. And then I have to figure out what I want to do for sides. And so I could just cop out and do like, Ruffles and French onion dip, which I'm never sad about that. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Then I have to go shopping for all that, and I have to cook it, and I have to clean my backyard, and I have to clean my kitchen, and I have to rearrange my dining room to accommodate the people. And I have to rearrange the studio today to get all the desks set up so that we're good for the filming tomorrow, which means I have to tear down this. I made a blanket fort. It's not actually a blanket fort. I needed a sound booth, and because I recorded some voiceover because we did. Oh man, yeah, y'all. So I don't know if everybody remembers, but I went to launch Darkly Galaxy last week, and it was really fun. I got to see like Clairvaux, who is super cool. I got to hang out with Kelsey Hightower for a lot longer than I expected to, which was awesome. Love that guy. And while I was there, I was making a documentary, and I got to do the documentary with a really good friend of mine, Johnny Jones. You may know him as Angie Jones's husband. He's a videographer, really, really good. And his crew, Brennan and Matt, were amazing. So we made a documentary, right? And we did it not like a true documentary, but more like an Anthony Bourdain style, like docu-series sort of thing, where there's some story to it, there's some voiceover and that sort of thing. So I needed to do the voiceover, and to do the voiceover, you got to record with these really sensitive mics. I use a Sennheiser MKH416 for the audio nerds in the audience. And if you've ever used one of those indoors, you know that they have just brutal room noise if you're not careful. So I basically have these sound panels that Jack's in the chat today. Jack built them and gave them to me because he wasn't using them anymore, that are like these sort of like wood panels that are just packed full of really dense insulation, and they're so good at canceling sound that if you hold your ear to one, it sort of feels like sound is getting sucked out of your head. They're fascinating. And then I have all these sound blankets, and I just kind of built a blanket fort to eliminate as much sound as I could, as enough as much echo, reflection, so on and so forth, so that I could record this voiceover. And so right now it looks like I have a blanket for it in this corner of my studio. So I got to tear that down. All sorts of fun things. Yeah, I did in fact use the booth. It was dope. And then let's see what else. A really easy steak is arugula with a lemon olive oil dressing. That is not a bad idea. Maybe I shall do that. Kind of like that. Okay, names. Okay, too many cooks in the kitchen. Okay. Yeah, I love the name, but I probably need to change it. Yes, it is not great. Let's see. 4 web devs, 1 cramped code base. 4WD. Yeah, so I was calling it 4D1A, which is it's hard to remember. It doesn't make any sense. 4WD coding is also fun. Rock'em Sock'em Web Devs is very funny, but it's not a competition, so I'll have to save that. And also that one's almost assuredly trademarked, and I wouldn't be able to do that for real. As fun as that would be. You are in fact killing it right now. These are great names. Let's see what else we got. Blanket for it. Yeah, we are in fact renaming 4 devs 1 app idea, because it's not a great name. I did it in the YouTube tradition of like 4 photographers shoot the same model, 4 producers flip the same sample. But it's I feel like it doesn't hit the same. Like 4 producers flip the same sample is also not easy to remember. But I feel like it's also more descriptive than like 4 web devs 1 app idea. All devs, no production. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was even gonna go get like something silly like just call it the web challenge or something like that, right? But then it doesn't have any description whatsoever. It's not a competition, but it should be. I agree. So one of these days, this is my grand plan. Like I wish I could like just magically pull out a white cat that I could stroke while I explain my evil plan. But so here's what I'm doing. I have been working toward what, you know what? I said I don't have big goals. I definitely have a big goal. I was lying earlier. I want to make a game show, and I want that game show to be in the format of like the Great British Bake Off, but for web devs. And I want it to be a team, like teams of 2, designers, developers, right? And I want this to be an actual competition. I want there to be judges. I want there to be hosts, and I want there to be. I kind of want to do it like the Great British Bake Off, where there's not really a prize. It's just like you get like a cake stand, because I think that's very funny, and I love the vibe of that show, because it's, it is low stakes, so people are still nice to each other and they're hanging out, but it is a competition. People win and people lose, right? And so what I've been doing is I have been slowly ratcheting up build quality of each of the shows that I'm working on to demonstrate how the game show will work. And each time I do it, the production cost goes up, but companies are more willing to pay for it because they can see the quality, right? So one of these days, I'm going to get a company to sponsor this freaking game show. And it's going to change everything. It's not, but it's going to be so much fun. Can you be Prue? Right, exactly, right? Like my whole plan is to be I'm gonna not host it. I'm gonna be a judge. I want to be Paul Hollywood. and what I want, nobody's finalized, this is just me wishing, but what I want is I want Cassidy Williams and Mark Texan to be my hosts, because they're both very funny. And then I'll need 2 more judges. And so the thinking, like the structure of this, I've got this all worked out. We have very natural product placement. Like I want Sentry to sponsor this, because the judges can use the actual like performance metrics from these sites as part of the judging. We can use like a tool like Cypress to make the technical challenge, where you get a set of tests and no code, and you have to make the test pass, right? Like, this would be so fun. And each of those things is an opportunity for sponsorship. It's an opportunity to get the tool used by devs on the show. So from a like why you would do it, it's the same impact as a webinar or a live demo, but it'll actually be watched by a lot of people because, like, I don't know, I watch the Great British Bake Off and I don't even bake, right? And when I do bake, I now have opinions influenced by the Great British Bake Off. So I think that's like a really good thing. I do really want Wes and Scott to be involved. So this is how far I went with this. I actually tried to join Sentry the way that Syntax did, on the condition of doing this game show. It didn't work out, which is fine. I totally understand why, but I really wanted to. But yeah, I think this should the great web dev off. Grab the rabbit from the wall, the pet. That actually would have been really funny. Codecraft Quartet is actually kind of funny. Devs in Harmony, but then it starts sounding like that starts sounding like a hip hop act. Like Devs in Harmony is like that Devs in Harmony is on tour with like SWV. Devs in Harmony and Bone Thugs on tour this summer. But Codecraft Quartet is actually kind of fun. That's fun to say. Web Dev Quartet, that's also good. Do Things Ship It is also funny. Let's see, what else? Competing in whiteboard coding. So one of the things that I thought would be really fun is that we can do little challenges like that. Like, I thought it would be fun to do a challenge where the devs have to switch computers after a certain amount of time, or like have like fun attacks. Like if you, I don't know, say you came in last place in the first challenge. If you've ever seen Nailed It, you'll know where I'm stealing this idea from. But if you came in last place in the first challenge, you would get like a pity advantage for the next challenge, where you could choose one dev during the next challenge where you could hit a button and it would like switch their keyboard to Dvorak or something. And right, like just fun stuff like that would be super chaotic. It would be you know, hopefully it's just a lot of laughs, but at the same time we're still learning. You're seeing how people build things. You're getting a sense of how the modern web gets created through the eyes of professional web devs, like, because everybody on the show is going to be a web dev, web designer. So how do they solve problems? How do they build things together, right? And that is the sort of thing that I think starts to really build a point of view on how to build. It gives you a broad perspective, and you get to see lots of tools in use. So I think it's, you know, like, I think that would be really, really, really fun. Yeah, the idea for guest judges, I think would be super fun. Bone Devs in Harmony. Mob programming experiment. That is pretty funny. What is an ACM programming contest circuit? I don't know what that is. Let me look this up. ACM programming contest. Oh. Association for Computing Machinery. Oh. That could be fun. I do think that would actually be really fun. Mob Dev. Are we just doing hip hop puns now? Programming contest sponsored by ACM. Okay, I got it. Red shell, but it changes their shell environment. Yeah, exactly, right? Like, it would be so much fun to try to come up with different attacks that would, you know, temporary. Like, for the next, you know, it's a 4-hour challenge. For the next 5 minutes, you got to type in Dvorak. For the next 5 minutes, your laptop screen is off and you got to go on touch, right? Like, or like you can't see, or we could steal from Code in the Dark, where Code in the Dark is you get a layout and you have to code the layout, but you can only see your code. You can't see what the layout looks like. And you know, the contest is like, how well can you code a visual UI without seeing it? You just have to look at the code and visualize how the code looks on screen. It's a super fun challenge. It's really fun, especially to do live, because you can project the code or the output to the audience, but the devs can't see it. It's very funny. Insane dev posse. Come on now. ICPC, that, yeah, I saw that ICPC came up when I searched ACM. It's good to see you, M. Huggins. Have a good one. It would actually be real. Yeah, make somebody use Vim for a bit, or if somebody is a Vim user, make them use an IDE without the Vim plugin. Like, there would be so many fun ways to just mess with people, and I think that would be so much fun. Oh no, going back so you can't fix typos. Like, this is brilliant. Like, and the nice thing about this is that I'd want to do it as a series, so we'd be able to sort of rotate these in and out. And, you know, throughout the season, we can just keep throwing different ones out there and see how they go. So anyways, one day this is happening. I'm going to make it happen. I'm working. I have like so many companies that are like, that's super interesting. We're not going to be the primary sponsor. Because it is like, to primary sponsor, it is, you have to financially backstop the whole production, which is not cheap. Like, it'll probably cost a solid $500,000 to $750,000 to fully produce a game show, right? Like, and making TV is expensive. That's just the fact. But that's for like an eight episode season, which is 8 weeks of episode drops, plus the pre-hype, the post-hype, all the rewatchability. And then the next year you can make a season 2 where people will go back and watch season 1. So, you know, like, I think I've never watched a Great British Bake Off the year that it came out. I always watch it later. But I've watched every episode. So it has a really long shelf life. I mean, I suspect it will be far and away the highest performing thing that I've ever made. And I think that it'll do like really impressive numbers, because it's just kind of fun to watch stuff like that. I mean, I would love it if Nebula wanted to be into it, but again, it's just the startup cost, like the hurdle to getting started is the startup cost. I've actually got this thing fully planned. If I knew I could pay the bills, I would start this today. It's just a matter of finding a company that wants to partner, that it believes in this. They see the vision enough to know that, like, one, we'll get enough sponsors that it's not actually $750,000 for one sponsor. It's going to be more like, you know, $100,000 for a few. But at the same time, it's just, that's like your thing. Like, you do that instead of throwing a company conference, which, by the way, is the right choice in today's corporate event landscape. It is really hard to get people to come to a corporate event. You know, it's not hard to do. Get people to watch TV. Companies, come talk to me. Let's make this happen. Would I record all the seasons at once? So the intention would be, we would get every episode for the season recorded, like, so 8 episodes we'd probably record across 2 weeks. So it'd be a thing. Like, we need people to take vacation time. We'd have to pay them for their time. We'd need the contestants to like actually come out, and it'd be like a 10-day trip to Portland minimum, probably. And so it is like, it's a production. It's like a real thing. But again, I think it'd be dope. I think it would be really fun. I think we'd have just a blast. And I think the impact of it would be enormous. Yeah, all the episodes in one season, yes. So the problem with things like Netflix is that you have to like have representation to get in. And like, I'm just not part of that. I'm not part of any of the writers or producers or actors unions. And I don't really know how to get in, and I don't know how to get an agent that actually knows how to get things done. And it's such a foreign landscape to me that I don't like, it's so overwhelming that I don't even know where to start. And so I'm going the path that I know how to go, which is through, like, dev companies want visibility. They are interested in reaching broader sets of devs. And every time I do one of these shows, it reaches a broader and broader set of devs. So eventually we're going to hit the tipping point where somebody goes, you know what, this is worth it. Like we're going to pull the trigger on this. So patience, it's going to work. Contest for funding. A VC contest for funding is actually a great idea. Anybody know any VCs? No, it wouldn't be VC money for my thing. It would be VC for the winners. Like you could do like, get founders to compete, and like the winner gets, I don't know, a $1 million seed fund or something. Yeah, like Shark Tank style. I think that could actually be really fun. Do a race to deploying an app using only a screen reader. That would be wild. Yeah, I mean, there's so many fun things we could do. Yes, companies, make it happen. Get on it. And yeah, I do. I mean, I actually think this is a really good point. Like a VC could use this as a way to promote their fund, and you are going to see like really talented devs will very clearly be really talented devs coming out of this, and moving them into your key portfolio companies, funding them to start their own companies, whatever it is. There's a lot of really good reasons that I can see why a VC would want to get involved. I just don't know any VCs is like my major problem. Yeah, getting weird with creative direction and content is a challenge, and that's another thing is like I'm not giving up creative direction, so it would have to be a very like specific agreement and somebody who really gets the vibe, right? Russ Hanneman, isn't that the dude from? That's the really funny VC from Silicon Valley, the guy that's like a complete nightmare. Somebody needs to talk to Theo. Yeah, I don't think Theo believes in this type of thing. I think Theo's more on like what he and Prime are doing. Because the last time maybe he's changed his tune, but the last time I talked about this, he was kind of like, I don't know about that. Trace Thomas. Get colleges to fund it like sports teams. See, this is here we go. This is how it goes. But yeah, fun the show, not necessarily funding me, I think is very good. Theo invests in companies. I don't think he invests like this. Because this would be a ridiculous investment for an individual. I think it would have to be it's got to either be part of a company's marketing budget or something else like that. Doors that open. Doors that open like this, not like that. Oh, that show. I don't think I finished watching that show, but I did feel like the first couple of seasons were so good. All right. So I did stream over Ping for a long time. It's a great service. I moved over to StreamYard not because of a limitation in Ping, but because I kept overcomplicating my custom setup. And then I was just having weird issues where like all I really wanted to do was what I'm doing right now, where what is it over here? Yeah, here where I can see your comment. I couldn't do that on my own stream. Couldn't highlight things, and so it was like, oh, I could build that, or StreamYard is $30 a month, and then I don't have to build it. I have a lot of like product feedback for StreamYard, and there's a really good chance that I won't be on StreamYard for all that long, especially like stream quality and stuff is even when the connection is good, it doesn't feel like it's great on StreamYard. I feel like they say 1080 and it's not really 1080, which is all like, it's all fine. Everything is fine. But I do have questions about like the long-term presence of StreamYard in my repertoire here. But anyways, I don't know. I think so we've been at it for about 2 hours, and I am considering maybe leaving a little bit earlier than usual. I know I usually do 3 hours on Tuesdays. Howdy Hydrate is what a good, thank you for the reminder. I got this, I finally got a Stanley Cup right in time for that trend to like go away and nobody talks about them anymore. But I got this one from Stitch. I was in their office and they were like, "Do you want swag?" And I was like, "I don't want swag." And they were like, "We got Stanley Cups." And I was like, "Actually, I do want swag." But yeah, I have No, I don't. I actually don't. I disagree. I don't take a lot of swag anymore. I don't know if y'all have noticed, but like the only swag I really wear anymore is hats. And like this is an Oregon hat, so it's not like not company swag. But I don't have much like the t-shirts. I have the hoodies, but I usually wear them for workouts only. I don't take. I'm like out of places to put stickers, so I don't take a lot of stickers anymore. And all of that is just I don't know. I'm getting choosy about swag, and I think um I don't know. I don't know what the right solution is because I don't think it's reasonable to make all swag like ultra premium. But also trying to find a way to make swag useful is good. I think the afterthought swag is not gonna fly anymore. Um Piano swag. I don't know what that means. It's good to see you, Sean. Thanks for hanging out. That's sort of what I'm noticing is like a lot of the swag is like a cheap t-shirt or the printing washes off after a couple times through the laundry or it's like a cheap plastic thing. And so that is that's sort of my general concern. But then at the same time, like I'm actually working with Ugmonk, which if y'all don't know Ugmonk, it is dope and you should definitely check it out. But we are doing giveaways as part of actually let me just pull this up so I can show you here. We're doing giveaways as part of the 4 Web Dev series or whatever we end up calling it eventually. And so I've been working with them to like we're buying the giveaways and sending them to the winners, which thank you to everybody who participated in the first giveaway, by the way. We're going to be launching another one soon, maybe not tomorrow, but pretty soon after tomorrow. That's going to be a little less intimidating. I think a lot of people were pretty intimidated by the vector databases. I know I was intimidated by vector databases. Maybe a challenging first giveaway. The next giveaway is going to be a little less terrifying, I think. It's going to be building a full stack app. You don't have to build, you don't even need to do a database if you don't want to. You definitely don't have to use AI if you don't want to. There's nothing about vector databases in it. It's just a little more straightforward, building a full stack app. More details on that probably later this week, potentially next Monday. I gotta double check with the sponsor to make sure how we want to coordinate the launch of that. And then the announcement for who won the first giveaway is coming when that episode launches. So stay tuned for that. It's the first time we've ever edited one of these, and there were something like 300 clips that we had to sync up and edit together. So it's a bit of a beast. We got a system now. Future episodes should go faster, but this one we're looking at probably another week or two before it's live. But I'm very excited about it. I think it was really fun. Jack, who's been in the chat today, was part of the episode. We had Lizzie Siegel. We had Carter Rabassa from the DataStax team here to like coach, and we had Chance, formerly of the Remix team, now working at a company called Replo, I think, not a DevTools company, and they all did really cool stuff. Like I was super impressed by everything everybody built. They are very fun apps. I think you will learn a lot. I think the format was like I had a ton of fun doing this. I hope it's fun to watch. I'm excited to see what y'all think. But all that to say, so I'm not really into the t-shirt swag anymore, but I talked to Ugmonk and I was like, what if we kind of kitted out the desks in my studio as a, like give the devs a nice place to work while they're here. And we'll just make sure that they like people are going to see how good these desks look in the video. And Jeff, the owner, was like, yeah, sounds dope. So we're going to have not in the video tomorrow, but the next one, we'll have some Ugmonk desk accessories and you know, a nice little setup for everybody. And if you have like companies that you like for things like desk mats, like what I've got here, or if you've got, you know, monitors or even like standing desks, because I noticed that a really funny thing that happened in the DataStax episode is that partway through the day, Lizzie decided that she wanted a standing desk, and so she like grabbed a chair and threw it up on the desk so that she had a standing desk. And I was like, oh, I should have standing desks in here. So if you've got companies that you think would be down for such things, you know, especially if you've got warm intros to people that work there, let me know, because we are trying to do, you know, we're going to slowly turn this into a full production TV studio. That's really where we're headed. So, you know, let's make it go. Yeah, the Ugmonk stuff is dope. Like it is really, really nice. I'm a huge fan of it. Did I get plenty of entries? Not for the first one. We had a very low number of entries, and I am fairly confident that was due to the fact that building a vector database is super intimidating if you've never done it before. Sponsored by Stanley, so they can. Let's see. Somebody patched the hole in the bucket. That's right. No leaked keys today, but that's because I didn't write any code. Yeah, I didn't think of an idea for a vector database until after the competition was done. I think that is a big challenge, is that like a lot of this is it was hard for me to think of an idea as well. And I had like a brainstorming crew. So I do think that was a very challenging, it was a challenging one. So future ones are a little less intense. And if I get my way, I'm working with some potential sponsors. Like, cross your fingers for me, all, because if I get these sponsors, what it means is that we're going to be able to do shows that are like web challenges. So build an animated landing page without JavaScript using only modern CSS features, or, you know, use a framework of your choice, but set up, I don't know, maybe we do some stuff with view transitions. Maybe you experiment with some, you know, like more web standard stuff. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be around a database or something like that. I love working with databases, but I also really want to work with some folks that don't work with databases. And like, there's some really, really fantastic engineers out there that prefer to be front of the front end. And I want, like, how do I get Lynn Fisher on this show? And I don't think, like, I don't want to ask Lynn to write databases, and I don't think Lynn wants to write databases. So we got to go front end, right? And so I want to have more of a blend of like front of the front, some of the back of the front. And if I land the sponsors that I'm working on, that will happen, and it's going to be so much fun. So yeah, keep your fingers crossed for me. Yeah, so that is exciting. Lots of good stuff coming here. I'm also working on, like, I talked a little bit about the Launch Darkly documentary. I've been talking to some companies about potentially doing some launch videos with them, which, if you've ever seen some of the other videos that I did in that space, like I helped, where's the button? This button. I've done, let's go to here and then playlists. And I've got somewhere in here, where are all these? Tech media. So I've worked on, I'll share a link to this in case anybody wants to see it. But there's wish these lists were easier to link. Like, I need to make a short link for it. But these are some of the projects I've worked on with other companies. So like, this was a conversation with Matt Billman from Netlify. We did a conversation to talk about the new primitives in Netlify. I thought this was it's a really good conversation. But then, like, this one, I worked with the dev cycle team to make an ad, more or less. We came up with a concept for, like, what it is that DevCycle is doing, and we made a story out of it, and it was super fun. We like worked with a crew, we had costumes, there's a whole lot going on in there. And the similar thing happened with this Tale of Web Dev in Two Universes with Netlify, where we wanted to tell a story of like what it is to use Netlify and what it is to work without it. Also, these ones, you should just, if you've never seen these ones, go watch them. Like they're so much fun. And this is probably the most fun I've ever had on a shoot, partially because Phil Hawksworth is like one of the funniest people I know, but also because this is the most ridiculous shoot we've ever done. You might be able to see as I zoom in here that we have Phil dressed in a robot suit. This is it's too good. Like you should just go watch it. Like it's so much fun. We need an entire TV network for devs. That is my like dream is to get to the point where that's sort of what we're doing, is we're just finding different ways to make more content that is for developers, and find ways to fund it that are, mutually beneficial for all of us. Like we should have something entertaining to watch, and the companies should be confident that people are seeing their tools in action, but we don't have to sit through webinars. I think that's the right blend. As we get to see people using things, we get to see how devs are applying different techniques, and DevTools companies should be stoked about that because they get to see their tools in action. And we as devs get to be stoked about that because we're not watching like ads. Like it's not an ad spot. It's just a dev building something, and you get to see him use a tool to do it. All of that, I think, is very, I don't know. That's what I've wanted, and so that's what I'm trying to build, and just continually working with more and more companies to make it happen. Hopefully, we'll see more. Sesame Street. The infomercials are streamers to fill time throughout the day. Oh my God, that would be incredible. Can you imagine if we did like a QFC or what's it in the UK, Gems TV for like dev stuff, where we had like somebody ridiculous like the Primogen doing a pitch for like NeoVim or something like. And I just got off the phone with the manufacturer at NeoVim, and they told me that they've never done this before, but they're going to drop the price by 40%. So you today only, if you get this today, the price of this is only going to go up from here. It's going to be worth millions in the future. This is an investment piece. You got to get NeoVim today. Like that would be absolutely ridiculous. Between two standing desks. Yeah. I mean, the possibilities are endless, y'all. Like come on, somebody out there who just is sitting on your exit, you made $1 billion. Like maybe let's just do this, right? Like no strings attached. Let's make fun shit. You and me, it's going to be great. This is like you building a legacy. This is the equivalent of building a public library in the early 1900s. Like let's build public access TV for devs. Get at me. My DMs are open. All right. Was that? I don't know. I don't know what I whenever I start doing one of those impressions, I just feel this terror inside because I'm like, oh God, am I just like being completely ridiculous? And I think the answer is yes, I am being ridiculous. But so anyways, with all that being said, that's the name of the streaming service. Oh my God. That is too good. Root Access. Oh, geez. That is solid name for a dev TV network. Root Access. Holy crap. That's amazing. Came for the ridiculous. Good. I shall deliver. Root Access TV is actually a good one. Is that one available? Let's find out. I can't buy domains through Google anymore. Where do I go? Oh, I don't want to buy it through Squarespace. No. Crap. How many of my domains are left over here? I think they've all moved at this point, so I have to go to Pork bun. Yeah, I think pork bun's probably where I'm going to end up. Oh, it's available. Okay, here we go. I'm buying a domain live on TV because that's the kind of person I've become. How do I actually pay? I have to log in. Oh no, do I have an account? I don't have an account. Okay, here we go. Here we go. We're doing stuff. Got a pass key. Everybody just hang with me while I purchase a domain for a TV network that doesn't exist. But it is really fun, and it should exist. They have a fax number field, but it's disabled and it says just kidding, and that's really funny. Also, let me share this real quick. This is very funny. Like, I'm still not going to get the emails, but this is very funny. Instead of just being like, do you consent to get emails and just acknowledging it? That's very clever. I like that. Okay. I'm creating my account. Verification code has been sent to the email. Where is it? Give it to me. Oh boy, where's it at? There it is. There's my verification code. This has got to be the most interesting like stream that I've ever done, right? It's got to be. You must check the box, by the way, for the site. That's what I'm doing. And oh, it's already hooked up through Stripe Link. What an easy choice for me. One button click, and I now own rootaccess.tv. Hell yeah. Thanks, y'all. I appreciate it. We are now processing your order. Prepare to be awestruck. Pork bun, you got some personality. That is very fun. Now I have to like process all of these things over. Okay. So this is, I'm going to drop a link to pork bun for anybody who wants to check that out. And what else? Yeah, live streaming on it too. Streaming network for devs would be super fun. Is history being made? Hell yeah. We're doing it. We're making it right now. We're buying domains. Excellent. Yeah. Thank you, MetalX, for the idea. That is a very, very good. Charles for the name, MetalX for the domain. This is going to come out great. If I get funding and it actually happens, hell yeah. We'll keep pushing. It's going to be, it's a long game, right? Like I've been pushing toward this for over just about 4 years now. And I suspect it'll take a few more years before we get to where I think it could be. But who knows? Maybe it all happens really fast. Maybe Century was watching this and they decided that, you know what, just kidding. We do want to invest in you. Yeah, no, I think this is really fun. This is going to be a lot of fun. So how about, you know what? That's a high note. And I think we go out on a high note because I have so many chores that I have to run today. And I am starting to feel the stress of how many things are still on my to-do list that I haven't done yet. So am I going to be at Render ATL? No. And my FOMO is at like 1,000. Everybody I know is going to be at Render ATL. And it's a sad story. I was supposed to do a documentary there, but my funding fell through at the last minute. The sponsor couldn't do it. And so I didn't buy a ticket. And then when the sponsor fell through, I booked something else and now I can't go. And I'm happy about the other thing I booked. Like, it's going to be super fun, but I am feeling the FOMO. Like, this is Kelsey Hightower's grand finale talk. Sarah Drasner's talking. Angie Jones is talking. Like, literally everybody that I know, and like Shonda is going to be there. It is the whole industry is. If you can go. Like, this is going to be one of those events where you just go and like make friends. Go there and be your awesome self and come away with new friends. And this is like, these are the types of events where enough people come together that the roots of events like these kind of trace. You can find where power relationships come from. Like they talk about in the early days of .com, there was the PayPal mafia, where everybody who worked at PayPal early day went on to be, a powerhouse VC or start more companies and all that kind of. It was like this network of people who were all super well connected and just managed to do everything, right? Well, those groups, they don't start out powerful. It's just people who like each other and they work together, or I guess in PayPal's case, don't necessarily like each other, but they all kind of came up around the same time. They know each other, and as they go out into the world, they bring each other in for stuff. They work with each other on things. They drop each other's names. And the next thing that happens is, a few years later, they're all in these really powerful positions and they still talk. They still hook each other up. Like, this has been very true in my career, that people that I met at conferences in like 2012, 5 years later, were people that had moved up into leadership positions who were like talking to me about jobs or offering me contracts or things like that. Like, careers are long, and relationships are long. And if you go and make those connections and just be a good friend, it will pay you enormous dividends over the course of your career. You just, be patient, be a good friend. And it really does work out very well in the long run. And Render is going to be one of those special events where like truly everybody is there. Like, I think everybody that I like, all of my friends are like there. So I'm going to be weeping during the live stream of that, because I'm going to see all of my friends that I'm not hanging out with, and y'all should be there taking my place. With that, I think I'm going to I'm gonna say thanks to y'all. Huge thanks for hanging out. This was a very fun one. It's been a while since we've done one of the non-coding ones, and I forgot how much I like these. So thanks for the good questions. Thanks for hanging out. And please, if you didn't watch it, I'm gonna do one more shout to my YouTube. Go here, watch this, please. Watch it, share it, like it. If you're watching the stream, please hit the like button on the stream as well. I really appreciate it. It helps me, do a bunch, do whatever you can. But go watch this video, please do. Like, it really does. The like button makes a huge difference. Watching it from front to back shows Netlify that that you're enjoying it. If you watch it at 2x speed, it's 8 minutes, goes a long way. I'm going to stop asking because now I'm feeling a little needy, but I do appreciate you all. Thank you all very much. We will see you all next time. If I can find my mouse. See, I try to end it cool, and then there's like 5 buttons I have to click to end the stream, and it's never cool. All right, bye for real.